The great chamber of the Galactic Assembly was the largest structure ever built by living hands. It floated in the empty space between three star systems, a monument to cooperation among the stars. Over 400 species sent their representatives here to decide the fate of civilizations. Today, humanity would learn its fate. Ambassador Daniel Harper walked toward the central podium. His footsteps echoed in the massive room. Around him, delegates watched from their platforms. Some had scales that shimmered like oil on water. Others were made of living crystal that sang when they moved. A few existed only as clouds of glowing gas contained in special chambers. Humanity, with its soft skin and need for oxygen, seemed plain compared to these ancient beings. Daniel had prepared for this moment his entire career. 20 years ago, Earth made first contact with the galaxy. 20 years of following rules. 20 years of inspections, treaties, and tribute payments. 20 years of being told to wait, to be patient, to prove themselves worthy. Today was supposed to be the day humanity finally earned its place at the table. He reached the podium and looked up at the assembled delegates. The chamber was so large that the farthest seats disappeared into a blue haze. Floating cameras broadcast his image to screens throughout the room. Honored members of the Galactic Assembly, Daniel began. His voice was steady and calm. Earth formally requests full membership status. We have met every requirement. We have signed every treaty. We have opened our world to your inspections and shared our resources freely. We believe humanity has earned the right to vote in this chamber. He paused, expecting the formalism that protocol required. Instead, a harsh sound cut through the air. It was laughter. Elder Counselor Vethrak of the Dominion of Sithold rose from his platform. He was tall and thin, with gray skin stretched over angular bones. His species had ruled 1,000 worlds when humans still lived in caves. He looked at Daniel the way a teacher might look at a foolish child. The human speaks of rights, Vethrak said. Tell me, Ambassador, does your species still require sleep? Do you still breathe oxygen? Do you still die after such a short time? Daniel kept his expression neutral. Yes, Counselor. These are facts of our biology. Then you answer your own question. Vethrak gestured dismissively. A species that cannot stay awake for a single rotation of our council station wishes to vote on matters of galactic importance. How can we trust decisions made by creatures who spend a third of their existence unconscious? Laughter spread through the chamber. Dozens of species joined in, their sounds of amusement ranging from clicks to whistles to deep rumbles that Daniel felt in his chest. The Kethmari delegate spoke next. Her body was serpentine, covered in scales of deep purple. Perhaps we should remind the human of the terms they agreed to. Under treaty provisions, humanity is classified as a developmental species. You are confined to your single star system for observation. You may not colonize beyond Sol. You may not develop military vessels beyond basic defense craft. These restrictions exist for your own protection. We have honored those restrictions, Daniel said, for 20 years. And you will honor them for 20 more. The Valorian Trade Compact representative interrupted. He was broad and heavy, with skin like rough stone. I propose we extend humanity's probationary period by 100 standard cycles. Clearly, they are not ready for the responsibilities of membership. Daniel felt heat rise in his face, but he controlled it. He had trained for moments like this. The assembly agreed that 20 years would be sufficient. We have done everything asked of us. You have done the minimum, Vethrak said. You have followed instructions like trained animals. This does not make you our equals. It makes you obedient. The chamber grew quiet. Daniel understood what was happening. This was not a debate about qualifications. This was a demonstration of power. The old species were showing the new one its place. Shall we vote? Vethrak asked. His tone made it clear the outcome was already decided. The voting took less than a minute. Lights flickered across the chamber as each delegation registered their position. Daniel watched the numbers appear on the central display. Against, 387. Abstaining, 12. In favor, 1.1. A single vote in humanity's favor. From a species so small and new that Daniel did not even know their name. The motion fails, Vethrak announced. Earth's petition for membership is denied. The developmental restrictions shall remain in place. This matter is closed. Daniel gathered his materials slowly. He had known this was possible. The briefings back on Earth had warned him that the old powers rarely welcome new voices. But knowing something and experiencing it were different things. As he turned to leave, Vethrak spoke again. His voice carried across the silent chamber, meant for everyone to hear. Ambassador Harper, take a message back to your world. Tell your people that they are the galaxy's eager pets. They fetch when commanded and sit when told. But they should understand something important. He paused, letting the moment stretch. Pets do not sit at the table. They never will. Daniel stopped walking. For a long moment, he stood still, his back to the chamber. Then he turned his head slightly, just enough for Vethrak to see his expression. He was smiling. It was not the smile of someone defeated. It was not nervous or forced. It was the quiet smile of someone who knew something others did not. Daniel left the chamber without another word. He walked through the curved corridors of the station until he reached the human diplomatic quarters. There, he sat at his communication terminal and typed a single message. The encryption was military-grade, unreadable by any system on the station. The message went to Earth at faster than light speed, bouncing through relay stations that humanity had quietly placed throughout the solar system over the past 2 decades. It arrived at the United Terran Council building in Geneva, exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds later. The message contained only 3 words. Prometheus Protocol authorized. In Geneva. Secretary General Lisa Monroe read those words on her personal screen. She closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her face was calm and determined. She pressed the button on her desk that summoned her. Senior staff. 20 years of patience had just ended. 20 years of playing the obedient newcomer, of hiding and waiting and building in secret. The galaxy had made its decision about humanity. Now humanity would make its decision about the galaxy. On the council station, the delegates returned to their normal business. They had already forgotten about the human ambassador and his failed petition. Earth was a small matter, a minor species confined to a single star system. No threat to anyone. They could not have been more wrong. The broadcast from the Galactic Assembly reached Earth within hours. Every news network carried the footage. Billions of people watched Elder Counselor Vethrak call humanity eager pets. They watched their ambassador stand alone while 400 species laughed. They watched their dream of galactic acceptance die in a vote that was not even close. The reaction was immediate and universal. In cities across every continent, people gathered in public spaces. There were no riots, no violence. There was something deeper. A cold anger that crossed every border, every political division, every old grudge that humans had ever held against each other. For the first time in history, all of humanity felt the same thing at the same moment. They had tried their best. They had been rejected. And they were done asking for permission. In Geneva, Secretary General Lisa Monroe convened an emergency session of the United Terran Council. The leaders of every nation sat in a circular chamber designed to hold no more than 50 people. Armed guards stood at every entrance. Communication jammers blocked all signals in and out of the building. What happened in this room would not leave this room. Not until humanity was ready. Lisa stood at the center of the chamber. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been a diplomat for 30 years before becoming Secretary General. She knew how to read a room. Right now, this room wanted blood. "Before we discuss our response," she said, "there is something you all need to see. Admiral Grant, please proceed." Admiral Kevin Grant stepped forward. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a face that looked like it had been carved from dark wood. He had commanded Earth's official defense forces for a decade. But that was not why he was here today. 20 years ago, Grant began, when we first made contact with the galactic community, our leaders faced a choice. The aliens offered us a place in their order. They told us the rules we would have to follow. No expansion beyond our solar system. No military buildup. No development of certain technologies. We agreed to these terms. He paused and looked around the room. We agreed publicly. In private, a different decision was made. Grant pressed a button on his handheld device. The center of the room flickered, and a holographic display appeared. It showed the solar system, familiar to everyone in the room. Then it expanded. Points of light appeared beyond the boundaries of Sol, 17 of them, scattered across nearby star systems. "These are human colonies," Grant said, "established over the past 18 years using technology that the galactic community believes we do not possess." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Brazilian president leaned forward. "Colonies? How is this possible? We were monitored constantly. Inspection teams visited Earth every year. They inspected what we showed them," Grant replied. "Our visible space program, our announced research, our declared military assets. They did not look for what we did not want them to find." He changed the display. Now it showed starships. Hundreds of them. Sleek vessels with designs unlike anything humanity had publicly revealed. 412 combat vessels. Constructed in hidden shipyards located in asteroid fields and on the dark sides of moons. Crewed by 18,000 trained personnel who officially work in classified Earthside positions. The display changed again. Technical specifications filled the air. Drives that could fold space. Weapons that could cut through any known shield technology. Communication systems that worked instantaneously across any distance. "Our scientists did not stop working when we signed those treaties," Grant said. "They simply stopped publishing their results. For 20 years, the brightest minds on Earth have been developing technologies that the Council species will not achieve for another 1,000 years. We call this collective effort the Prometheus Protocol." Secretary General Monroe stepped forward again. "The question before us is simple. We have the power to change our situation. Do we use it?" The room was silent. Then the German Chancellor spoke. "If we reveal this, there will be consequences. The galactic powers will see it as a threat. They may respond with force." "They will definitely respond," Grant agreed. "Our analysts believe they will attempt economic sanctions first, then military action if we do not submit. They have done this before to other species. And those species lost," the Japanese Prime Minister said. "Those species did not have what we have," Grant replied. "They were truly primitive. They did not pretend." Lisa Monroe looked around the room. She could see the calculation happening in every mind. Fear wrestling with pride. Caution battling anger. These were the leaders of humanity, and they were trying to decide if they wanted to start a war with the entire galaxy. "I need to know something," the Indian Prime Minister said. "If we do this, can we win?" Grant did not hesitate. "We will not lose. That is not the same thing." "No, it is not. Victory depends on how we define it. If we want to destroy the Council, we cannot do that. They are too large, too spread out. But if we want to make them leave us alone, to earn our freedom through strength rather than asking for it, then yes." We can do that. Lisa Monroe walked to the central display. She touched a control, and the hologram disappeared. The room was quiet, just 50 people holding the future of their species in their hands. 20 years ago, we chose to play a role. The eager newcomer. The good student following the rules. We thought if we were patient, if we were humble, we would be accepted. She paused. We were wrong. The galaxy does not respect patience. It does not reward humility. It respects only power. She turned to face the assembly directly. By midnight tonight, I intend to terminate every treaty humanity has signed with galactic powers. We will go silent on all diplomatic channels. We will recall our ambassadors. And we will show the galaxy what we truly are. She held up a document. A single piece of paper with spaces for signatures. This requires unanimous consent. Every nation must agree. If even one leader objects, we will find another path. I will not drag humanity into a conflict against the will of any member. One by one, the leaders came forward. One by one, they signed their names. The process took less than 10 minutes. When the last signature was complete, Lisa Monroe looked at the document. 50 signatures. Every nation on Earth. Unified for the first time in human history. Send the termination notices, she said. All channels, all powers, effective immediately. At midnight, Earth went dark. Every communication link with the galactic community went silent. Diplomatic frequencies carried nothing but static. Trade negotiations stopped mid-sentence. Inspection teams found their access codes suddenly invalid. The galaxy noticed immediately. Messages flooded the empty channels, demanding explanation, threatening consequences. Earth did not respond. Humanity was done talking. The time for action had arrived. Ambassador Daniel Harper had not left the council station. Officially, he was still Earth's representative, even though there was nothing left to represent. Unofficially, he was now considered a hostage. Guards followed him everywhere. His communications were blocked. His quarters were locked from the outside. 3 days after Earth went silent, Elder Counselor Vethrak summoned him to a private meeting chamber. Daniel walked through the curved corridors of the station with 2 armed guards at his sides. He kept his pace slow and relaxed. He had been waiting for this moment. Everything was happening exactly as they had planned. The meeting chamber was small compared to the great assembly hall. Vethrak sat at a long table, his angular gray face showing what Daniel had learned to recognize as irritation. 2 other council members sat with him. The Kethmari delegate with her purple scales. The Valorian with his stone-like skin. The 3 most powerful voices in the galaxy gathered to deal with one troublesome human. Sit, Vethrak commanded. Daniel sat. Your world has made a grave error, Vethrak said. You have terminated treaties that protected you. You have gone silent on channels that allowed you to trade. You have insulted powers that have crushed species far greater than yours. Daniel nodded politely but said nothing. We have been patient, the Kethmari delegate said. We allowed you to throw your tantrum. Now it is time to return to reality. You will restore communications. You will apologize to this council. You will accept an extended probationary period of 200 cycles. If you do these things, we will forgive this incident. And if we do not? Daniel asked. Vethrak leaned forward. Then, we will teach you what happens to species that forget their place. Economic sanctions, trade blockades, and if necessary, military correction. Your solar system is very small, Ambassador. It would not take long to remind you of that. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. The guards moved forward, but Daniel held up his hand. Relax, it is only a projector. He pressed a button. A holographic display flickered to life above the table. The three council members watched with expressions of mild curiosity. The display showed a star map. The same map that hung in the Great Assembly Hall, showing the territories of every galactic power. Thousands of stars, hundreds of empires, the accumulated structure of millions of years of civilization. Then new lights appeared. They blinked into existence one by one. First near Sol, in systems the council believed were empty. Then farther out, much farther, 17 points of light in regions claimed by the Dominion, the Compact, the Collective, and a dozen other powers. Human colonies, Daniel said calmly. 17 worlds, established over the past 18 years. The Kethmari delegate hissed. Impossible. We would have detected your ships. You detected what we allowed you to detect. Daniel changed the display. Now it showed the borders of every major power. At each border, small clusters of ships appeared. Human ships. Hundreds of them, positioned at strategic points throughout the galaxy. These vessels materialized in their current positions approximately 6 hours ago, Daniel explained. They came through null space, a form of travel your scientists believe is purely theoretical. We have been using it for 12 years. Lethrak stood up so quickly his chair fell backward. This is a trick. A projection meant to frighten us. If you contact your border stations, you will find it is not a trick. As if on cue, a communication device on the table began to chirp. Vethrek grabbed it, listened for a moment, and his gray face went pale. Daniel continued. Our ships are not attacking. They are simply present. They want you to know that they can be anywhere, at any time, without warning. He changed the display again. Now it showed the council station itself, the very structure they were sitting in. Technical diagrams filled the air. Power systems, life support, communications arrays, defensive shields. For the past decade, humans have worked on this station in what you considered menial positions. Maintenance workers, cleaning staff, technical support. Daniel smiled slightly. Positions your species thought were beneath your attention. Those workers have been very busy. The lights in the chamber flickered. Engineer Chris Palmer sends his regards, Daniel said. He wanted me to tell you that he controls approximately 70% of this station's critical systems. Not enough to cause harm, but enough to make a point. Vethrak looked like he might collapse. The Kethmari delegate's scales had shifted to a lighter shade, a sign of extreme distress. Only the Valorian remained outwardly calm, though his stone hands had cracked from how tightly he gripped the table. You deceived us, the Valorian said. For 20 years you lied. We followed your rules, Daniel replied. We signed your treaties. We submitted to your inspections. We paid your tribute. Everything you asked of us, we did. He leaned forward. But we are not fools. We saw how you treated other new species. We watched the Kethmari dismantle the Vorlon economy. We saw the Dominion glass 3 worlds of the Tethan people for the crime of expanding too quickly. We understood that you would never accept us as equals, no matter how perfectly we behaved. So you prepared for war, Vethrak said. We prepared for survival. There's a difference. The chamber was silent. The 3 most powerful beings in the galaxy sat before a single human, and for the first time, they understood that they were not in control. What do you want? The Kethmari asked finally. Name your demands. Territory? Resources? Seats on the council? Daniel stood up. He walked to the window that looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were waiting. Human colonies were thriving. Human technology was rewriting the rules of what was possible. That is the part you do not understand, he said. We do not want anything you can give us. We are not here to negotiate. We are not here to make demands. He turned back to face them. We are here to inform you of a simple fact. Earth is no longer asking for permission. We will go where we choose. We will build what we choose. We will live as we choose. If you leave us alone, we will leave you alone. If you threaten us, we will respond. He walked toward the door. The guards moved to block him, but Vethrak waved them aside. There was no point in stopping him now. This is not over, Vethrak said. The council will not accept this. Daniel paused at the door. The council can do whatever it wants. So can we. The difference is, now you know what we are capable of. He left the chamber and walked back to his quarters. Behind him, the three council members sat in stunned silence, trying to understand how everything they knew about humanity had been wronged out in the corridors of the station. Human workers continued their duties. They swept floors, repaired equipment, and maintained systems. But now they looked different. Now they moved with a quiet confidence that came from knowing the truth. Earth was awake, and the galaxy would never be the same. The galactic powers did not accept humanity's declaration quietly. Within a week of the revelation, the old empires began to move. The Dominion of Sithal assembled the largest fleet in living memory. 1,200 warships gathered at the edge of human-controlled space. Each vessel was centuries old, built with technologies that had crushed 100 rebellions. Elder Counselor Vethrak himself traveled to the flagship to oversee what he called the correction of Earth. The Kethmari froze every human asset in galactic banks. Billions of credits, accumulated through 20 years of careful trade, became worthless numbers in inaccessible accounts. They expected this would cripple humanity's economy within weeks. The Valorian Trade Compact closed all ports to human vessels. Any species caught trading with Earth faced immediate expulsion from the galactic market. The message was clear. Humanity would be isolated, starved, and brought to heel. These were the same tactics that had worked for thousands of years. The old powers had broken species far stronger than humanity. They expected the humans to surrender within a month. They were wrong. Commander Megan Shaw stood on the bridge of the human vessel Defiance. She was a woman of medium height with short dark hair and steady hands. She had served in Earth's secret fleet for 15 years, training for a battle she hoped would never come. Now it had come. Her force consisted of 81 ships. Against 1,200 Dominion warships, the numbers seemed hopeless. But numbers were not everything. All ships report ready, Commander, her tactical officer announced. Megan looked at the display screen. The Dominion fleet was arranged in their traditional formation. A wall of heavy cruisers at the front, destroyers on the flanks, the flagship protected in the center. It was a formation that had won 1,000 battles. Open a channel to the Dominion flagship, Megan said. The communication screen flickered. Vethrak's angular gray face appeared, showing what passed for amusement among his species. Commander Shaw, he said, I expected someone more impressive. You have 80 ships. I have 1,200. Do you understand mathematics? Better than you think, Megan replied. I am offering you one chance to withdraw. Take your fleet home. No one needs to die today. Vethrak laughed. It was an ugly sound. Your species truly is remarkable. Even now, facing certain destruction, you make threats. When this battle is over, I will personally deliver your body to your Secretary General. Perhaps that will remind humanity of its place. You have been warned, Megan said, and closed the channel. She turned to her crew. 37 men and women, each one trained to perfection. They looked back at her without fear. They knew what they could do. Begin operation, Megan ordered. The Defiance and its companion ships vanished. On the Dominion flagship, sensor officers screamed warnings. The human fleet had simply disappeared from their screens. Before anyone could react, the human ships reappeared. Not in front of the Dominion formation, but behind it. And around it. And above it. 81 ships in 81 different positions. Each one with clear firing lines on Dominion vessels. Null space drives did not just allow travel between stars. They allowed movement within a battlefield that seemed like teleportation. The human ships opened fire. Directed energy weapons cut through Dominion shields like they did not exist. The first volley destroyed 47 ships. Before the Dominion could return fire, the human fleet vanished again. They reappeared in new positions and fired again. Another 32 ships gone. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it was over, the Dominion fleet was scattered wreckage. Over 800 ships destroyed. 300 more damaged beyond repair. The remaining vessels drifted without power, their crews alive but helpless. Megan ordered her ships to stop firing. She opened a channel to the Dominion flagship, which was crippled but intact. "Elder Counselor," she said, "your flagship's life support will fail in approximately 6 hours. We are prepared to provide assistance and transport your crew to safety. Do you accept?" There was a long silence. When Vethrak spoke, his voice was hollow. "You would help us? After we came to destroy you? We did not come here to murder soldiers following orders. We came to make a point. The point has been made. Human rescue ships moved through the debris field for the next 12 hours. They pulled Dominion crew members from damaged vessels. They provided medical care to the wounded. They gave food and water to the survivors. Then they sent them home. Lieutenant Ryan Brooks supervised the last transport. He stood in the cargo bay of a captured Dominion cruiser, watching the gray-skinned aliens file past him toward shuttlecraft that would take them to their territory. One Dominion officer stopped in front of him. "Why?" the alien asked. "We came to kill you. Why do you save us?" Ryan thought about the question. "Because that is not who we are," he said finally. "We wanted you to leave us alone. Now you will. That is enough." The officer stared at him for a long moment, then continued walking. News of the battle spread across the galaxy within hours. The mighty Dominion, rulers of 1,000 worlds, defeated by a species they had dismissed as pets. But the more shocking news was what happened after. The humans had shown mercy. They had saved their enemies. The Kethmari discovered their own problems soon after. Human sleeper programs, planted in banking systems over the past decade, suddenly activated. They did not steal credits. They did something worse. They released information. Records of secret deals, illegal trades, corruption, at every level of Kethmari finance. Within a week, 3 major trade cartels had collapsed. The Kethmari government faced riots on 12 worlds as their citizens learned how badly they had been cheated by their own leaders. The Valorian trade compact found their blockade meaningless. Human freighters did not need Valorian ports. They traveled through null space directly to the worlds they wished to trade with. Within a month, 47 species had signed direct trade agreements with Earth. The Valorian monopoly on galactic commerce, maintained for 3,000 years, crumbled like sand. On Earth, Secretary General Lisa Monroe received reports from every front. Victory after victory. Not through conquest, but through demonstration. Humanity had proven it could not be bullied, could not be isolated, could not be controlled. But she felt no celebration. She sat alone in her office, reading the casualty reports. 16 human lives lost in the battle with the Dominion. 16 families who would never see their loved ones again. She wrote 16 letters that night. Personal letters to each family, explaining what their sons and daughters had died for: freedom, dignity, the right to exist without asking permission. When she finished, she looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled newly claimed space. Human colonies welcomed their first wave of settlers from Earth. Human ambassadors received delegations from species who wanted to join the new order. The galaxy was changing. Humanity was changing it. And there was no going back. 3 months had passed since humanity ended every treaty. The galaxy looked very different now. The great chamber of the Galactic Assembly was quieter than it had ever been. Many seats were empty. Some delegations had simply stopped attending, their governments too busy dealing with internal chaos to participate in galactic politics. Others had withdrawn formally, announcing that the old council no longer represented their interests. The remaining delegates sat in nervous clusters, whispering to each other about rumors and reports. Human ships had been seen everywhere. Human traders operated in markets that had been closed to them for decades. Human diplomats received visitors from species that had never spoken to Earth before and today. The humans were coming back to the assembly. Ambassador Daniel Harper walked through the great doors for the second time in his career. But this time, he was not alone. Secretary General Lisa Monroe walked beside him. Admiral Kevin Grant followed, along with representatives from every human colony world. They moved together, a unified group that filled the central floor of the chamber. The delegates watched in silence. No one laughed. No one made jokes about pets or eater children. The mood was very different from 3 months ago. Elder Counselor Vethrak was present, though he looked older than before. The defeat of his fleet had cost him much of his political power. He sat in his usual position, but his voice no longer commanded the room as it once had. Secretary General Monroe stepped to the central podium. She looked up at the assembled delegates, taking time to meet the eyes of as many as she could. 3 months ago, she began, my ambassador stood in this chamber and asked for membership. You rejected him. You called humanity pets. You said we would never sit at your table. She paused, letting the memory hang in the air. We did not come here today to demand that seat. We no longer want it. The table you built was designed to keep species like us beneath you. We will not crawl for a place at a table built on inequality. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Monroe raised her hand for silence. 20 years ago, humanity came to you in peace. We offered cooperation. We asked for partnership. You gave us restrictions, inspections, and contempt. You taught us that kindness would be seen as weakness. You taught us that patience would be rewarded with more demands for patience. She stepped forward, her voice growing stronger. When we finally showed our strength, we had a choice. We could have done to you what you have done to others. We could have glassed your worlds, collapsed your economies, destroyed your fleets entirely. We had the power. The chamber was completely silent now. We did not do those things. When we defeated the Dominion fleet, we saved the survivors. When we broke the Kathmari banking cartels, we exposed corruption rather than stealing wealth. When we bypassed the Valorian blockade, we opened trade to species you had exploited for centuries. She looked directly at Vethrak. We showed mercy because that is who we are. Not because we are weak, but because we are strong enough to choose something better than revenge. Admiral Grant stepped forward and activated a holographic display. It showed a new symbol, a circle of stars surrounding a blue planet with dozens of other worlds orbiting around it. This is the emblem of the Terran Cooperative Alliance, Grant announced. Formed 2 weeks ago. Current membership includes humanity and 112 other species. Gasps echoed through the chamber. 112 species had joined humanity in less than 3 months. The old council had taken thousands of years to reach 400 members. Ambassador Harper took the podium next. The Alliance is not a replacement for this council, he explained. We have no interest in controlling the galaxy. We have no desire to rule over other species or force them to obey our laws. The Alliance exists for a simple purpose. mutual defense, fair trade, equal partnership. They pulled up membership documents on the display. Any species may join. There are no probationary periods. There are no tribute payments. There are no restrictions on development or expansion. The only requirement is a commitment to treating all members as equals. Nothing more. Nothing less. The Kethmari delegate rose to speak. Her purple scales were dull with stress. You would accept us? After everything? If you can meet the requirement, Harper said. If you can treat other species as equals rather than resources to be exploited. That is the only test. It is not so simple, she replied. Our entire economy is built on controlling trade routes, on charging fees, on keeping others dependent on us. Then perhaps it is time to build a new economy, Harper said. We can help you with that. We have been building new things for a long time. Secretary General Monroe returned to the podium for her final statement. We did not come here to celebrate victory. We did not come here to humiliate those who humiliated us. We came here to make an offer. She looked around the chamber one last time. The old way of doing things is ending. You can feel it. The powers that controlled this galaxy for thousands of years are losing their grip. Species that accepted their place beneath you are finding new options. The universe is changing. She smiled, and it was a warm smile, not a triumphant one. Humanity would rather build something new with you than build it against you. The door to the Alliance is open. All you have to do is walk through it. She turned and walked away from the podium. Harper, Grant, and the colonial representatives followed. They left the chamber together, their footsteps echoing in the vast space dot behind them. The old council sat in uncertainty. Some delegates were already calculating how to apply for Alliance membership. Others were planning desperate schemes to restore the old order. A few simply sat in shock, unable to understand how everything had changed so quickly. 1 year later, pilot Kate Williams docked a cargo ship at Nexus Station. It had once been a Valorian trading post, closed to human vessels under penalty of destruction. Now it flew the flag of the Terran Cooperative Alliance, alongside 60 other species emblems. She walked through the busy corridors, passing beings of every shape and size. Crystalline Vorth traders, gaseous Phanari tourists, even a few Sithal, their gray skin now associated with a species seeking redemption rather than domination. A young Sithal child pressed against a viewing port, watching Kate's ship. Are you a human? The child asked. Kate knelt down to the child's level. I am. My teacher said humans built all of this while pretending to be weak. Is that true? Kate thought about the question, about the 20 years of hiding, about the secret shipyards and the hidden colonies, about the moment when humanity revealed itself to the galaxy. We were not pretending to be weak, she said finally. We were waiting to be strong. The child's parent approached, a Sithal adult who looked nervous about their offspring talking to a human. Kate smiled at them reassuringly. Your child is very curious, she said. That is a good thing. The parent relaxed slightly. Thank you. We are still learning how to live in this new galaxy. So are we, Kate replied. But we are learning together. That is what matters. She continued through the station, just one human among thousands of beings from across the stars. The galaxy was different now. Not perfect, but better. More free, more fair, more full of possibility. Humanity had not conquered the stars. They had joined them. And in doing so, they had changed everything. Far away, on Earth, a new generation was being born. Children who would never know the shame of being called pets. Children who would grow up in a galaxy where humanity stood tall among the stars. Children who would carry the dream forward to places no one had yet imagined. The story of humanity among the stars was just beginning, and it would be a story worth telling.